Hello, long time no see. For those that asked, I am still alive. I just spent the last year getting my teaching credential, because, I decided being disrespected by middle schoolers is my true calling in life. Anyway, I've been fantasizing about home ownership again, what's new, so in this video, I want to take a trip down memory lane and see what's going on with all the houses listed on Zillow that I have remodeled in The Sims 3 on this channel. Let's get into it. First up, we have the 3-bed, 2-bath manufactured home in Gualala, California, which I remodeled in my very first video posted back in April of 2023. It's a little over 1,500 square feet and was built in 1985. At the time of the video, the home had just sold for $500,000 in the previous year, which is more than twice as much as the listing prices of all the other houses that I've made in The Sims. Not because it's a particularly luxurious home, but because it's located on the northern coast of California, and when it comes to home prices, we're number one. Actually, we're number 2 behind Hawaii, but still expensive enough that home ownership is out of reach for many in this state, myself included. When I recreated and remodeled this home in The Sims, it was intended for a multi-generational family, the Bakers, which are from The Sims 3 base game family bin. The Bakers are an elderly couple with a young adult daughter and a toddler grandson. So I wanted it to feel like a grandparent's house that had been lived in for a few decades. So the decor is intentionally a little bit dated. I didn't make any major layout changes to the main house, but I did add a little office/fish room in the garage, and I built a tiny cabin in the back for the daughter Becky Baker and her toddler son Topher. As far as I can tell from mild internet snooping, nothing much has happened with this house since it was purchased. Unlike some of the other houses we'll return to in this video, it hasn't been relisted since it was sold back in 2022, which I like to take as a sign that someone has actually settled in there permanently. Based on the Google Street View, it does look like the roof has been replaced with a new metal roof, which makes sense as that's a pretty popular wildfire-resistant option here, and this house is in the Wildland Urban Interface. It also made me happy to see some deer walking through the front yard in the Street View photo. I like to think that whoever is living there now watches the deer and birds and squirrels from the front window in the mornings. But anyway, I wish the best to whoever bought this home. It is in one of the most beautiful areas of California, and I hope they're able to hold on to it and enjoy it for many years to come. Next up is this 4-square home in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, from a video that I posted in May of 2023. It was built in 1915 and is about 1,100 square feet. Back when the video was posted, this 3-bed, 1-bath home was listed for $149,000. As I mentioned in the initial video, it's located in the Garfield neighborhood, which did have quite a few empty or abandoned houses back when I lived there during grad school in 2017. Including the property next door to this one, which appears to still be vacant in the updated photos, which I'll show a bit later. My Sims 3 version of this home was made for the Williams family, also from the family bin, who are a young couple with a toddler daughter. I went for a Scandinavian sort of design style on the interior, mostly light colors and natural looking materials, very minimal clutter. I didn't add to the square footage of the house, but I made some layout changes on the first floor. I opened up the kitchen and dining area, and I added a half bathroom underneath the stairs. On the second floor, I also kept the layout basically the same. Primary bedroom is in the front, and the 2 small bedrooms are in the back. One is an office, and one is a nursery. Only thing I did with these rooms was make some small adjustments to the placement of the closets. Bathroom is in the same location as well, opposite the stair landing, but I did flip the tub to the other side and I added a separate shower behind it. In the back of the house, I added a 2-story deck which has a door to the office and stairs leading down to the backyard. Quite a lot has happened to this house since that video was posted. It sold in January of 2024 for $114,000, so $35,000 under the listing price at the time of the video, but it was relisted just a little over a year later for almost 3 times that sale price at about $315,000. The listing is still up at the time I'm recording this video, if you're interested, but the price has been lowered twice and it's now at $285,000. So obviously our price history here tells us that the 2024 purchase was not from a buyer who wanted to live in the home, but one who likely intended to flip it and sell it for profit. So let's take a look at what they've done to the home to account for that huge price increase. On the exterior, it looks like they kept a lot of the original features, like the iron railing on the patio, the brick, even the mailbox. They just cleaned things up a little bit. The concrete porch and the steps have been painted, the siding has either been cleaned or repainted, and they painted the front door black. Overall, it looks largely the same. There's no landscaping added, chain link fence is still there, this random pipe sticking out of the ground is still there, and the walkway is still a little crooked. So, as you'll see in the next photos, their focus was primarily on the interior. Throughout the entire house, the blue-gray carpet has been replaced with a laminate flooring. It's honestly not that different in color. The horrible office ceiling tiles are gone, the walls have been refinished, and new lighting fixtures have been added throughout. They made similar layout changes to the first floor as I did in the Sims version. The wall between the kitchen and dining room has been removed. However, they used the former dining room space for the new kitchen, which results in a more open floor plan. They also added a half bathroom on this floor, but instead of taking square footage away from the dining area as I did in The Sims, they tagged it onto the mudroom. On the second floor, the laminate flooring continues throughout all of the bedrooms. Some doors have been replaced, the old paneling on the walls is gone or covered over, and new lighting has been added. The bathroom is one of the biggest areas of change. All of the old plumbing fixtures are gone. It looks like the tiny window is gone as well. And the brown tile floor has been replaced with this white and gray hexagonal tile with black grout, which continues on all of the walls around the whole tub/shower area. Before I give any opinions, I want to note that although I do scroll through r/DIY on a daily basis, I know absolutely nothing about construction of any kind, so I don't know if these renovations look like they were executed well from a functional standpoint. I'm just here to talk aesthetics. I'll start by saying some nice things. I appreciate that they kept the exterior brick untouched. You can't really unpaint brick once it's painted, so it would have been a bummer if they had painted over it. And I actually like the original white siding that they kept more than the bluish color that I painted this house in the game. I just wanted a transformation for the before and after photos, to be honest. I also prefer the kitchen layout that they went with over what I did in the game. My version still felt a little cramped with it being squished behind the half bathroom that I added. I think this open layout would be more pleasant to cook in. And finally, refinishing the walls and more so the ceilings is obviously a huge improvement. Waking up to those terrible classroom-style tile ceilings every day would be pretty depressing, so I'm glad that they fixed that. Okay, now I'm going to be cranky and rude, but all of my complaints are probably obvious because they stem from the same basic issue, which I think anyone who has searched for an apartment or house is very familiar with at this point, and that's that this is clearly a home flipped by an investor, so design decisions are made based on cost and speed, and that's all. And sure, not all flippers do this, but enough do that you can find houses exactly like this in any major US metropolitan area that you look up on Zillow. And if you scroll down in the price history of these properties, you'll probably see that they were purchased within the last 5 years and are now relisted at a significantly higher price that is probably unjustified. So yeah, I dislike this gray laminate floor, these boob lights, these recessed lights, this faux industrial light, this silly above counter sink, these cheap white shaker cabinets with no hardware, these white doors with the black knobs, and this white and gray tile with the messy black grout. But we all know that these items were not chosen because someone thought the residents would like them. This is designed with price in mind, not people. Nonetheless, I hope the people who do eventually move in here are able to put their own touch on this house and enjoy it for many years. Our next house is this 3-bed, 1-bath home in Wartburg, Tennessee. That's about 1,100 square feet and was built in 1987. I remodeled this one for a video that I posted in June of 2023, right after it had sold for $175,000. You can tell by the photos it could use a little TLC. It has some pretty ugly vinyl floors, the walls are missing trim in some areas, and the paint colors are a little loud, maybe not for everyone, but I do like the layout with the living spaces and bedrooms being separated by this little split level. I also like the carport. I think functionally I'd prefer a garage, but aesthetically I love a carport, and the yard is very spacious, good for lots of dogs or chickens or something. In The Sims 3, I remodeled this home for the Bayless Greenwood family, which consists of Tay Bayless and Emerald Greenwood, who are from 2 families on opposite sides of the Twinbrook neighborhood. They have a daughter named Jane and 2 dogs named Pedro and Penelope. I expanded this house a little by adding a sunroom on the back. I also added a small ensuite bathroom for the primary bedroom. I closed up the space between the kitchen/dining area and the living room. Out of all the houses in this video, this one is closest to something I would choose for myself design-wise. It's obviously a little 70s inspired. I've got the terracotta tile in the main parts of the house, which is definitely something I'd use in real life if I owned a home. Bathrooms are bright and colorful, which I like for a bathroom. The floor in the bedrooms is a little crazy. It's supposed to look like cork. There's an explanation for that in the original video. But yeah, it does look whack here, honestly. I think the swatch I used is actually supposed to be particle board. But overall, I really like this one, and I should note if you want to download any of these before or after versions in The Sims 3, there is a link to all of them on the exchange, which may or may not still be operational, who knows with EA. But anyway, that's it for The Sims version. So similar to the first home in Gualala, as far as I can tell from mild internet snooping, nothing much has happened to this house since it sold in May of 2023. It has not been relisted and there are no new photos. And I can't even snoop on this one because it's located at the end of a cul-de-sac that you can't go down in Google Street View. So I really have no way of knowing if any changes have been made, but I hope that whoever is in there now is having a good old time in their bright red house, assuming it's still that color. Okay, our final home for this video is this huge 4-bed, 3-bath, over 2,500 square foot home in Xenia, Ohio, which was listed for $225,000 back when I built it in The Sims. This home was built in 1974, and it has a lot of fun little touches like the pink front door, the palm tree sunset wallpaper in the dining room, and the colored plumbing fixtures in both of the bathrooms, which I do really like but don't get attached to them. It also has this huge bonus room off the back of the house in addition to the 4 bedrooms, so it is the largest of the 4 houses that I've flipped, and probably a little too much house for me in real life, but I say that as someone who has never been trapped inside by weather for significant chunks of time because I live in the Bay Area, which does not have seasons. I would probably feel differently about the square footage if I lived in Ohio. In The Sims, I remodeled this home for the Platt Steele family, which is a mix of 2 different households from the Starlight Shores neighborhood, Danielle Platt and her 2 kids, Alora and Robbie, and then Danielle's fiance, Richter Steele, who is from the Crash Pad household. I kept the layout mostly the same, but I broke the 4th bedroom into an office, a gym, and a half bath, and I also added a pool and covered patio area in the backyard. For the design, I went with a Spanish colonial type of style with dark wood floors, white walls in the common areas, rounded arches, and colorful tile. Looking back at these photos, I do really wish I had bothered to paint the ceiling tiles, at least in some of the bedrooms. The white ceilings are kind of killing the vibe. Anyway, this design overall would probably look a little out of place in Ohio, so I would not expect the real house to look anything like this in present day, but it has undergone some changes and there are new photos of it, so let's take a look at what has happened to this house. This property went through a couple price drops both before and after I made the video, and eventually sold for $185,000 in September of 2023. Similar to the Pittsburgh home, it was listed again about a year later for nearly twice as much, around $360,000. So brace yourself for some photos of a typical investor flip. Again, I'll start with the nice. They didn't paint the brick. Also looks like they partially finished the basement, which I didn't know existed when I made the first video because there were no photos of it, but that does account for the 3 bathrooms in the old listing when I could only find 2 in the layout photos. And that's it for nice. So as you can see, everything is now gray. Gray walls, gray tiles, gray carpet in some rooms, gray vinyl floors in other rooms. We've got a mix of grays on the tile backsplash, and of course they painted the cabinets white. While I don't like the carpet choice, I understand the need to replace the old carpet. It was pretty rough, especially in the bedrooms. I'm more confused by the vinyl because this home already had vinyl in the kitchen and hallway, but that vinyl was at least trying to be the color of wood. I don't know why that couldn't have just stayed for the future residents to eventually replace with something they actually like. And that's one of my biggest complaints about these shitty investor flips is they kind of force you to be wasteful. Like if I were to buy this home, I'd want to get rid of all these horrible floors and tile, but I'd feel too guilty because they're brand new. It's not like I'd be replacing threadbare carpet or moldy, peeling linoleum that's at the end of its useful life. So not only is the cost of those new materials that you probably didn't want built into the inflated price of these homes, if you buy one, you would have to pay to dispose of and replace those materials down the road if you want to like the way your home looks. So you're essentially paying for 2 renovations, the cheap gray one you didn't ask for, and then hopefully eventually one that you want. Obviously, it would be presumptuous of me to assume that just because I don't like this stuff, nobody does, and I'm sure some people out there do, but I'm also pretty sure that that population is not proportional to the percentage of houses and apartments on the market that look like this. We just have such a shortage of affordable housing that sellers don't really need to be responsive to buyers' tastes at all. So, at least in some areas, most listings look like this. I am hoping that somehow enough investors lose money on these flips that the trend dies down soon, but in the meantime, I think if you can afford to be vocal about your dislike of this sort of thing when you're viewing places, go for it. Then at least flippers can't feign ignorance about their aesthetic crimes. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I had fun getting back into making these things. I am working on the second half of the Sims 2 Rags to Riches video, which should be out later this month now that I have free time. But until then, enjoy your summer and thanks for watching. Bye!